Hey there, vinyl community. So today is a very special video. I'm going to be unveiling my brand new turntable and I can't wait for you guys to see it. Before I do that, I thought a fun video topic and something I could talk for a little bit about is every turntable I have ever owned. So in the 10 years or so that I've been into vinyl and analog, I've owned about 7 turntables. The newest one being number 7. So I wanted to give a rundown of all the tables that I've owned over the years and what I thought about them and a little bit of history of my gear swapping, things that happened before I started the YouTube channel. Because when I was younger, when I was in my undergrad and getting into this hobby, I was buying and selling a lot of vintage gear, and I think a lot of people that get into the audio hobby cut their teeth in vintage gear. It's getting harder to do now because the prices have gotten so that I don't think it makes sense anymore to start your journey used. Like, I really recommend people now, you know, if you're buying your first turntable, I really recommend going with a new model, something from like Project or Riga. I have some suggestions down in the description if you want to take a look. Because there used to be tons of deals to find, and there still are, but for the most part, it's becoming a collector's market, and I don't think you're getting value for money anymore with that. However, 10 years ago, it was a different story, and I could find turntables sometimes at Goodwill, Salvation Army, Craigslist, even local pickup on eBay. So I want to take you through the history of my turntable ownership. Starting with my very first turntable. My very first turntable was a Pioneer PL255 direct drive table. This turntable was made, I believe, in 1979. It was a entry-level Pioneer direct drive table, fully automatic. I don't remember if, yeah, I think the automatic functions did actually work. I remember it had a very solid metal platter. It was heavy. It did have like a plastic case though. Like it didn't have one of those solid cases. It was kind of almost, it rattled if you picked it up the wrong way. It was okay. I bought it on eBay for $90 shipped. Yeah, those were the days, right? I don't know if you could do that anymore. I don't think the seller, I think it was like an estate seller or something, because they shipped it like shit. They shipped it, they didn't tie down the tone arm. And they shipped it with a one of those big steel 45 RPM adapters rattling around inside the case under the dust cover, which I'm very thankful it didn't dent the tone arm. It could have done that, but the cartridge, it came with a cartridge, but the cartridge arrived thrashed because the tone arm was. They just basically took the turntable and just wrapped it in bubble wrap and put it in a box and. But it worked, and I had it for about a year, and it sounded for $90. It sounded way better than anything you could buy new for $90. That's for sure. Way better than a Crosley, way better than anything like that. One of the Audio Technicas probably even. I would bank that I never ran them head to head, but I would bank that turntable sounded better than the Audio Technica. What is it? The LP 250? Is that the one that's like $200? The LP 250? Yeah, I think it definitely would sound better than that. It was all right. The turntable I really wanted was a Project Debut Carbon. That was the one that I'd been reading about that I really thought would be like the nice, you know, good sounding audiophile level turntable. So about a year later, I think this was for my 20th birthday, my parents bought me that table, and it was wonderful. It sounded way better than the Pioneer. And all while this was going on, I was still buying and selling a lot of vintage gear. So the Project Debut Carbon, actually, if you go back and look at my oldest videos, I had the Project Debut Carbon in some of my early videos. It was with me in my apartment in Montreal before I upgraded to the Riga. I traded it in for the Riga. I'll get to that. So yeah, I had the Project Debut Carbon. That turntable was great. I kind of upgraded that over the years as far as it would go, but I also kind of kept. This was when, like, you know, I just wanted to hear everything that was out there. You know, I was constantly like buying and selling vintage gear, so just to try stuff. So I always kept like other vintage tables around and other equipment around. The next turntable I bought, I believe, was a Pioneer PL530. I'm going to show a picture of that. That was not a real wood veneer. That was one of the Pioneer's vinyl veneered tables. I don't know if they ever made a real wood veneer turntable. It was vinyl, but it looked cool. It looked really retro and vintage. And I think that's why that table is so popular today. It's a full auto table. It's kind of like mid-level Pioneer. I think this was made from 76 to 78. I got that on Craigslist, and these prices, sometimes I tell people these prices now that this stuff used to go for, and they're just like, what? Because it's insane now. Back then, I think I got it on Craigslist. I paid $190 for that Pioneer PL 530. Just because I wanted to see what people were crazy about that table on, I used to spend a lot of time on Audio Karma, and people were really crazy about that table on there. I think because it looked so nice. It really is a beautiful looking turntable. Didn't sound that good. Did not sound as good as my Project Carbon, but I enjoyed tinkering with it and having it around. I just recently sold it, actually. So yeah, I had that table, and I also had, and this is gonna really blow people's minds. The next vintage table that I bought was a Pioneer PL 540 table. And this one was actually really good. This is a little bit later in Pioneer's history. They made it from 78 to 79. It's semi-automatic, so you drop the needle, you cue the needle, but after the record's done, it will pick itself up and go back to the return, which is nice. I think I don't like the full auto tables, but auto return is kind of a nice feature if you're really lazy, or it's good for turntables that maybe you have like a turntable in like the kitchen or dining room or living area that's not like a sit down and listen hi-fi, but it's like a put on the record and do other stuff. Semi-auto tables are great for that. But actually, this Pioneer PL 540 sounded really good, and I bought it for $40. And I guess I'll tell this story. So this was, oh man, I want to say like 2012, 2013. And I was responding to an ad on Craigslist for some Boston Acoustics A60 bookshelf speakers that I was buying off a guy. And he was selling a couple pairs of like vintage bookshelf speakers. I thought, oh man, this guy must be a collector or something. He invited me over to try them out, to listen to them. And this was in like South Austin, and I get to his house. This guy was a vintage audio hoarder. It was actually kind of wild going into his house and looking at this stuff. And he had like his wife and kids running around, and the living room was just stocked full of all this vintage audio. I think he was running like he had some big Yamaha monitors up, and like a vintage tube Macintosh preamp. I forget. I don't remember what he was using for power. And he showed me the Yamahas, because I had heard about them. I was like, oh man, I've never heard these Yamahas, but I keep hearing about them. And he played them for me, and they were bright as hell. I didn't like them. Maybe looking back now, if I had them with the right amplification, I would like them. But at that time I liked the Boston Acoustics, which were really like kind of tubby. And I was buying these Boston Acoustics for like $50. And he was showing me some of his stuff, and he had more stuff in his garage. He had stacks and stacks of like vintage speakers and turntables just sitting there. And I spotted one of them. I'm like, oh, is that the PL 518 or something? He's like, no, it's PL 540. And he like took it down. He's just like, yeah. I was like, wow, like, would you be interested in selling this? I'd love to try one of these. And he's like, yeah, and it works. The only thing that's wrong with it is the tone arm rest clip was broken, so you couldn't secure the tone arm, but it's not a big deal. Sure, yeah, but I wish I brought enough cash to pay you the right amount for it. And he's like, well, how much did you bring? I said, well, I got an extra $40 on me. He's like, sure, yeah, I'll give it to you for $40. That would not happen nowadays. No. This gear is going for crazy amounts on eBay. I actually sold that table to my friend a few years later, and he ended up using it for many years, and I think he really liked it. Anyway, I digress. So that was, man, that stuff doesn't happen anymore. Most of my viewers will know what I'm talking about. This vintage audio stuff used to be readily available, and since the vinyl resurgence, it's just not. And collectors like it for the aesthetic rather than the sound. See, I was buying this stuff because it was a way to get good sound cheaply. because the new stuff is expensive and it's made in less quantity, which means, you know, you're getting less for your money. With the vintage stuff, if it still worked, it would sound a lot better than the cheap plastic turntables you get at the, you know, department store or whatever. Nowadays people like the vintage gear for aesthetics, and it looks good. It really does. But if you're you know, now these tables are going for $300, $400, $500, and you could get a lot better sounding new turntable for $300, $400, $500, like the Project. So that's my spiel on vintage turntables. So I'm gonna stop talking. That's it for the vintage tables. I'm gonna stop talking about those now. So anyway, in the summer of 2014, I was still using the Project table as like my main turntable, my audiophile turntable. The summer of 2014, I was, you know, for many of those years, I would work summer jobs bartending. And one summer, I was making pretty good money working at, people in Texas might know M&E Movie House. I was bartending there. I remember this was the summer after my junior year of my undergrad, and during that junior year of my undergrad living in New York City, I had started kind of visiting audio stores and kind of seeing what the world of hi-fi was like, because there were so many great hi-fi stores in New York. There was Sound by Singer I went to once. There was there was a really cool little hi-fi shop in the Village. I'm trying to remember the name, but they were a record store too. If anyone knows in the comments, they had line magnetic amps and Dynaudio speakers, and that's where I fell in love with Dynaudio speakers. I can't remember the name of that place, but I went there and listened to some stuff. And I also went to a cool event in the Village at a place called Stereo Exchange. People that live in New York might be familiar with Stereo Exchange. It's like the biggest hi-fi store in New York City. And I went to an event there that was hosted by VPI. That was the unveiling of their brand new direct drive turntable, the VPI Direct. This was before they made the HW40. They made the VPI Direct Drive, which was like, I don't think they sell it anymore, but when that launched, it was like something crazy, like 20, 25 grand, something like that. Because it was this newly developed direct drive table that cost VPI a lot of money to develop. But it was the launch party, the release party for that turntable. And it was open, all you had to do was RSVP. And so I went with a friend of mine, and we went and listened to that. But also, Michael Fremer was doing a turntable setup seminar. And that was cool, because I'd seen those on YouTube, but I'd never been to one. So I went and watched his turntable setup seminar. And of course, like everyone afterwards, they wanted to go up and ask him advice and questions. I remember talking to him and being like, hey, you know, I'm really interested maybe in, you know, I have the Project Debut Carbon. It's a great table, but, you know, what should I be looking at if I want to, you know, go to the next level? And at this time, the VPI Traveler was a big turntable. I was talking to him, he said, you know, the VPI Traveler is a great table, but if you actually want to make like a significant step up, and he was doing setup on a VPI Scout. I don't remember if it was the old Scout with the acrylic platter, if it was the newer, at that time, the Scout 1.1 with the aluminum platter. But he said, no, if you really want to make like a significant setup, I would look at something like this VPI Scout here. And I took that to heart, and I looked at it pretty hard. And then when I was working that job later that summer and I had some disposable income, Music Direct had one come up for B stock. So it was a few $100s off. And to this day, I have no idea where the physical defect on that table was. So that was my first real high-end turntable, the VPI Scout 1.1. Incredible. I still have it. That's the turntable I keep at my family's house in Texas. Is kind of a, you know, when I come home to visit, I'll spend a lot of time there and we listen to that turntable. It's a great table. I love it. It's because of its design, it's not really conducive to moving a lot. So I've never had that in my apartments, just because I move frequently. So that stays at my family's house. You know, it's kind of the thing I come to see, you know, along with my family. That's the thing I come to see when I go back to visit that turntable, and I still enjoy it. I get a kick out of it. It's an incredible, for what they were selling it for back then. It's an incredible table that's not made anymore. They moved to the Prime series, but yeah, I like that table a lot. So now we get to the part where actually most of you are probably familiar with, because I was making videos during this whole process. I had the Project Debut Carbon with me in my apartment in Montreal, along with, I was using it with a Sansui amp and those KEF speakers. Eventually, the new Riga P3 came out, and it was getting really good reviews, and there was a Riga dealer within walking distance from my apartment. And so I walked down to Audioville on, oh, what street was that? Was it on Saint Denis? I think it was on Saint Denis. But yeah, I went down there and tried it out, and I was in love. It was even in the store, I could tell it was a significant step up. It had the longer tone arm, better bracing. The tone arm was just, on that table, is a great tone arm. And the Riga P3 is still my recommendation for a lot of people looking to get something a little bit better than, the Project Carbon, or, the Riga P1 is also good, but once you get to the P3, that's a really, really good turntable. You can put some serious carts, and I have put serious carts on that turntable. So I've had that turntable for 4 years now. It followed me from 2 degrees, 2 countries, and 4 apartments. I've had that turntable, and it served me very well, and it has departed. It's not my turntable anymore. I've actually already sold it. So now we get to the cool part. Now we get to what'll probably be my last turntable, honestly. I can't imagine it getting much better than this. I can't imagine ever needing to upgrade to something better than this. A truly beautiful, high-end, and great sounding turntable that I'm going to introduce you to right now. Hey guys, so here it is, the moment of truth. I'm going to bend down to make sure I am in frame here. So this is my new turntable. This is the Pure Fidelity Horizon turntable. So I've been thinking about upgrading from the P3 for a while now. It's a lovely table, it's a great table, but my system and where I was as a reviewer and someone that has vinyl as a big part of their life now, even a bigger part than it was a year or 2 ago. I wanted something that could match any future upgrades I make to my system, that was kind of one of those tables that was a big enough step up that I didn't need to worry or think about upgrading for many, 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 many years after that. And I can't foresee ever upgrading past this turntable. I'm sure it may happen someday, but for now I'm good. And let me show you why. So this is the Pure Fidelity Horizon turntable. Now, Pure Fidelity are a company that most of you probably have not heard of. They're a very small company. It's run by a wonderful guy named John Stratton out of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And it's essentially his pet project. They don't, they're relatively new, a couple years old. They don't sell a huge quantity of turntables. They've got maybe, I want to say like 4 dealers in the US and 1 or 2 dealers in Canada. But they're really, really simple, straightforward, robust designs, and they're just gorgeous. And so I want to take you through all the cool parts of this turntable. So they don't make their own tone arms. They sell their turntables with a number of tone arms, but the brand they really like pairing their turntables with is a German brand called Acoustic Signature. And most of their tables they sell with this tone arm called the Acoustic Signature TA1000 tone arm. And this is a really, really excellent German tone arm. I mean, it's the nicest tone arm I've ever gotten to use. It's just silky smooth. It's a 9-inch carbon fiber tone arm with I believe this is machined brass and aluminum back here. A really cool, it does use a like a pulley anti-skate weight, but the way they have it in this chamber here is, I think, really ingenious. I don't know if you can see that on camera. I may show it in B-roll. But it's just a incredibly high quality tone arm that really, I think, makes this table. I've got my trusty Dynavector 20X2 on it. So it is a belt drive table. It comes with this really, really heavy stabilization weight. You can see that there. It's actually got stabilizing ball bearings on that. Very, very heavy. The platter is a 2-inch thick machined Delrin platter. John likes using Delrin platters because he thinks it provides a lot of the benefits of the faster sound, like with you get something like Riga's, but because it's such a thick piece of machined Delrin, it also has that bass response that sometimes you want out of like things like an aluminum platter. So it's kind of a best of both worlds scenario. And I will try to lift it up. It is heavy. I mean, look at that sub platter. This is a machined, I believe, aluminum subplatter, and the bearing in here is actually a ruby bearing. The plinth on this table is, well, the veneer is real rosewood. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's kind of part of the appeal of this table is it's just so simple, minimalist, and gorgeous with the rounded edge here. I don't know if you can really see that. So yeah, it's a real wood, rosewood veneer. Inside is I think about 2-inch thick MDF chassis, and then underneath that, kind of sits into it is a vibration control, its own vibration control platform. It's a big, like 25-pound brushed aluminum vibration platform. So it's, even though it looks like it's one piece, it's actually two pieces. This sits in the aluminum chassis, and the aluminum chassis has vibration control feet, and it's just designed to just knock out any resonance whatsoever. So even though it has the Delrin platter and the rather minimal design, it is kind of a higher mass turntable design, unlike the Riga, which is a very, light, quick, get the vibration out of there. This really does not let vibration into the turntable platform. And I went ahead and pulled this out here. It does come with its own speed controller. This is a Maestro speed controller. We have selections for 33 and 45 here, as well as on-off. And this actually connects to a separate power supply box. That's the actual power supply for the table. This is the speed regulation. And this thing, I've had my ups and downs with belt drive turntables in the past. And, they do, to me, I like the sound of the belt drives better than the direct drives. Sometimes the pitch can be a little unstable. The pitch on my Riga, even with the Riga PSU, was just okay. The pitch on this is like rock stable. You listen to piano, strings, woodwinds at the ends of phrases. I mean, it's sounds just as stable as any direct drive I've ever heard, and it's a lot smoother of a frequency response, not quite as bright as direct drive table. As long as I'm filming this from this angle, I should also give a shout out to my new turntable light, which is frickin' killer. This is the Uberlight Flex from a company called the Reliable Corporation, and apparently one of the viewers of my channel is someone who works there, and he sent me this over to try out. I've had LED turntable lights before, cheap stuff from like IKEA and Target, and they're okay, but they're not. I mean, this thing is just, you can bend it every which way, and we've got like different lighting settings and different color settings. Yeah, this thing is cool, and I share this space with my roommates, and when they want to watch TV or we want to watch a movie or something, and this is blocking the TV screen, just bend it like that, and it's out of the way, and then we want to listen to a record, boom. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, this is the new front-end analog section of my system, and I promise I'll do a state of the stereo video in the next week or so. I'll do a whole rundown of the system because it's kind of completely different now than from the last time. Almost everything has changed to some extent. So I will do that video, but I wanted to do a turntable-focused video today, so this is the unveiling of this table, which I'm absolutely in love with. If you want to know more about Pure Fidelity turntables, and they're not paying me to do this, I like this company, and I'm really happy with my table. If you want to check out more about Pure Fidelity tables, I'm gonna give a link in my profile, because they're a small company, and John, the owner and creator, is a really good guy, and I think more people should check out their tables because they sound great and they look great, and they're cool, and I like them. All right, I will see you guys next time. Cheers, VC.